I want to thank you all for being here. So our topic, hi, Dr. Fang. Our topic really focuses on the need, we believe, to increase our adult enrollment. And I want to say about a year and a half ago, I was asked by VP Becerra to participate in this Noel Levitt's endeavor, in which there were a number of groups all dedicated to the task of finding ways to increase enrollment. And as I looked through the numbers, what I saw is that although overall our student body was growing, we were growing primarily in the early college, high school dual credit area, and we were losing a lot of adult learners. And so I think that concerned me, as well as Dr. Mahatni and Jenny Scheidt. And so we teamed up. And so that's what we've been focusing on. I want to first thank you all for being here. And in a special way, I want to thank some of the folks that we asked, because one of the things we believe is that if we're going to make any headway in terms of increasing adult enrollment, we need to look at the issue from a much broader perspective than merely academic success. And so we thought we need the help of student success, which really they're on the ground, on the front lines when it comes to enrollment. Student success, but also college services. And so what we were able to do is to enlist folks that have that expertise. I'm very happy also that Dr. Rodriguez is here with us, because Dr. Daniel Rodriguez has been here longer than I have at PAC. He's a former chair, former of counseling. He knows a lot of the institutional history, and that's also one of his areas of expertise. And so I thought, we need to enlist help of all of these folks in order to pave the way. So the process is going to be as follows. Dr. Mahatni has a beautiful PowerPoint that he's going to walk us through. Then what we're going to do is forgive me. I wanted to also thank Nydia. I invited Nydia from advising. I invited Carmen Velasquez Avila from advising. Thomas Murguia, we need him here from tutoring, of course. Shayna Allen, I think, is joining us or will be. She's from student services, college services. So Shayna, thank you so much for being part of this. And again, really thank you all. So again, Dr. Mahatni will lead us through a PowerPoint. Then we have 5 questions that we want to put to you and get your input. So we plan to devote approximately 5 minutes per question. And again, we'll do that at the end of after the PowerPoint. Okay, am I missing anything, Jenny or Dr. Mahatni?
No, I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, let me project my screen. All right, so this is about adult learners, and the title is Let Not a Dwindling Population Be a Forgotten Population. So I gave you the summary or conclusion at the beginning by saying that it's a dwindling population. And I have put some names, team members, but I would also like to acknowledge early participants, Veronica Rosa Tatum, Andreas. They all started it at the very beginning in terms of developing strategies. 2 groups were working on this, then they merged into one when it came to implementation. And a lot of the results that I will be presenting to you would pertain to that initial development as well as implementation. So in terms of the outline, first I will go over the motivation, objective, then give you some background on adult learners and the kinds of data that we have used. Those are derived from national, state, and Palo Alto College level data, thanks to Tracy, who provided most of Palo Alto College data. Then we will go over proposed strategy, then preliminary action plan results, and then summarize the presentation before we move into the panel discussion. The student population at our college, we categorize those into three segments, traditional, dual credit, and adult learners for the purpose of enrollment. And one of them that we are focusing on is adult learners. And there has been a precipitous drop in that enrollment since 2015, and we will be presenting data from 2015 to 2019. So therefore, it has become an important issue when we put that in the perspective of the attributed growth or the expected growth to student population at the college. And this activity, although we all are doing in our volunteer time, we do connect this to the mission statement, which is enrollment and retention across all student groups. Therefore, we cannot ignore or neglect the adult learner population. This is also consistent with the strategic direction of Alamo colleges, which is community empowerment. So therefore, the objective of this work is to determine if adult learners can continue to be a student population to meet the desired overall enrollment growth for Alamo colleges, and in this case, particularly for Palo Alto College. So who are adult learners? This is not a new topic. A lot of work has been done since 1970s. It was a popular topic then, and it's also an important topic now. And a well-designed adult learner enrollment growth projection study will require us to ask some key questions and be able to look at the bigger picture, no matter who is involved in this process. So we ask the questions such as, how well do we really know our adult learners? What motivates them? What makes them succeed as students? Have we fully explored what it takes to enroll and retain regular traditional students versus adult learners? And this study that we have conducted takes a qualitative as well as a quantitative assessment approach to illustrate the needs, and we predict enrollment growth. So adult learner is one of the population, student population that delays entering into post-secondary education after high school education, or a population that has been in secondary education, they dropped out and would like to return. And this is a population within the broader population of what we call as non-traditional or unconventional students, characterized by financial independence, have one or more dependent, they may be single caregiver, may not have traditional high school diploma, they may have GED, and attend school part-time, work full-time, maybe from military. And normally nationwide, it is accepted that adult learners are the group above the age of 25, but for our purposes, we are doing the analysis with the age group starting 20.
Can I ask a question that just came up for me? Is that our definition of adult learner, or is there some national accepted?
25 is the nationally accepted definition.
Okay, thank you.
So adult learners may encounter a variety of issues such as balancing financial obligations, their family commitments, having to balance their time for work and study, learning the new technology unless the technology is something they use at home on a daily basis or at work on a daily basis, they being full-time or first-time in college students, because many of their family members, friends, they don't understand the kind of demand their education has on them. And another very important one is the lack of self-confidence, either to enter into higher education and to persist and continue. And in a survey, 52% indicated that the primary reason they are not entering into secondary, post-secondary education is because of the lack of self-confidence. I thought that was very important. And these issues lead them to affecting their well-being, and they build heightened level of stress and dissatisfaction that leads to non-persistence and eventually dropping out. But if you look at their responses, it is clear that there is a lot of interest among these adult learners to come back to school to excel. And this, the data from Pearson survey suggests that 71% anticipate needing more education over the next 5 years, 66% expect to pursue a degree or a certificate, 51% contemplate to change their professional field, therefore they need to re-educate themselves. And if we look at the pipeline of students who are graduating from high school and becoming so-called adult learners, this data is very important. What we are finding that nationwide, 34% of the students completing their high school did not enter into college that year of high school completion. 28% did not enter college within 1 year of high school completion, and 19% within 2% of high school completion. These delays have significant impact because they create knowledge gap. So therefore, they will need specialized training to be able to function as our traditional students. So when we look at these high school graduates, and now that our interest is in making projection to future, is almost about a decade, we cannot ignore everything that is happening now in taking those into consideration in our projection. Therefore, it is quite illustrative to look at what the trend has been in terms of high school graduation. The plot in the middle shows that there are about 3.2 million high school graduates. But the important thing to note here is that the number of high school graduates is increasing as a function of time. Then after about 2025 or 26 is going to drop. Of course, this is just a projection beyond 21, but the current projection is that it's going to increase before it drops. So that is kind of interesting, given that the graph on the left, which shows a birth rate is consistently declining, as we all know. So here the y-axis is presenting birth rate as a birth rate every 1,000 people as a function of time. So there is a consistent decline here, but the orange portion is showing that there has been instances when there is a sharp drop in the birth rate. And even if you look at the period in which we are making our enrollment projection, which is from 2021 to 2030, that looks very flat. We may ignore inadvertently the fact that there was a reduction in birth rate or drop in birth rate that is going to impact. So anything that we make projections here, we must account for the birth rate that took place in 2008, and this significant drop is going to impact in 2027, 28 timeframe. So if we take this high school graduation rate nationwide and we compare that with that of Texas to make it a little more local, we find that even if there is going to be a sharp drop in population in graduate student or high school graduates at the country level, we may be a little better off in Texas because it is more diffused. We should be concerned about any of these curves that is below the X horizontal axis. So that is something we need to keep in mind, that any planning and design and projection we are making for enrollment population in the students in the future, we should be accounting for that drop. So then we developed various strategies. I won't have time to go through all these points because otherwise this will be a very long talk. But I'm going to highlight the high-level points. First is we need to forge organizational adult learner partnerships with workforce solution, Goodwill, and other similar entities such as Project Quest, University Health System, etc., to tap into the GED graduates that are coming from those pipelines. So that means GED is going to be an important focus in the past, in the future, to include them in our enrollment process. And the second is those who are into continuing education and how to tap them into pursuing a degree in the future. In addition, those who are transitioning from military to future jobs, and we may want to focus on Alamo Promise students, as well as the vast population of high school graduates in San Antonio. Those could be college ready, but they are not in our process. And we are thinking there may be about 250,000 or more in that situation. So the second aspect of the strategy is to collect and analyze lots of data. We need to focus on data not just for advertising or marketing, but also on the retention of the students who are already at the college, and develop a target for strategic marketing that will not just be on the social media, on the TV, or on newspaper, but we also need to hold outreach that will enable us to give face-to-face type of environment for interaction with future potential applicants. And we need to have a tracking mechanism for that. So aside from that, when it comes to our faculty or the academic side, we need to create an infrastructure that will meet specific adult learner needs, and that will require our coordination with the services that are provided. So we need to identify age-appropriate pathways, provide flexible options such as classes in the evenings and weekends, and we need to think about what the impact of having smaller class sizes would be, because that will be a necessity. And one of the ways to prevent or to reduce dropout is to consider giving credit by going through prior learning assessment framework. And we need to develop a robust support service. And we are recommending to dedicate one team to be accountable and consistently see through the application, completion, admission, advising process, as well as financial aid and enrollment. And you will see that we are factoring into the calculation. And some of the other services that would be unique to adult learners, that would be enhanced tutoring, differentiated advising, providing instructional aid to our faculty members, of course, personal counseling, etc. would be, and advocacy would be very important. And transportation was identified as an important issue for adult learners, and daycare is also another one. So the graph or the schematic on the right-hand side is basically highlighting that we have no choice but to work in a highly integrated fashion if we are serious about retaining adult learners as well as increasing the enrollment. That will require the involvement of student advising, welcome center, institutional research, communications, and arts and science division, and professional technical education division.
And all of these strategies were identified in your review of the literature, right? Including things like smaller class size?
Yes, yes. Those are supported by tons of data in the literature. So what I'm presenting here is the historical data for Palo Alto College. Yeah, this is not from the literature. This is basically we are analyzing our own data. The upper two figures, those are representing the number of applicants as a function of time and enrollment as a function of time. The most important point to gather here is that there is a precipitous drop in the number of applicants. And therefore, we have a precipitous drop in the number of students enrolled. And so then I will show you how we are using this data to make projections to the future. So we have also broken it down along the line of various age groups, and the dominant age group here is 20 to 24, then comes 25 to 34, then 35 to 44. If we want to take quick action, then those are the age group we want to focus on in terms of increasing number of applications and enrollment. However, we should not neglect these other populations, because there is data in the literature, which I have not included here, suggests that these segments will gain more people in the coming future or in the near future. If that happens, that means we cannot ignore those populations. So when we take this number of applications data per year, just for the fall semester, and compare that with the enrollment, you see the gap here. And if you take the ratio of enrollment to number of applicants, that is called yield rate. And that is a point on this middle curve. So this ratio is nothing but the height of this yellow bar to the height of the green bar. But what is most important point, there are two important points when it comes to enrollment yield. First one is that this number is exceedingly low. Being at a community college and having a conversion rate or yield rate of 25% to 30%, to me appears to be exceedingly low. But that also provides some optimism to me, because I think that is an area where we can do something so that we can target 100% conversion if at all possible, or if not, we should target to double this conversion rate. And the second point I would like to make here is that the yield rate was getting better and better with time, but suddenly it started declining after 2018. And we need to figure out what is causing that, and we need to stop that kind of decline. So what I presented so far is the historical data. Now, how do we use that historical data to make projections to the future? So the figures on the left-hand side, the one at the top is for number of applicants, and the one at the bottom is enrollment. And these hollow circles, those are the historical data. And the normal technique of projection, empirical projection, is to do what you call as a regression analysis. If I do a regression fit using a linear regression, in that case, I find that the R square, which gives a measure of fit, is about very high. But the bad news is that if we continue with that trend, then the number of applicants is going to zero out by about 2022, which is not believable, because that's not what data is suggesting right now. Therefore, we experimented with an exponential fit, because it makes it a little more reasonable, even if there is a little bit of loss of R square value, which is regression fit. But then I'm not worried, because that is happening in the third or fourth decimal place. But still, that is bad news for us, because if we let business as usual and don't do anything, don't take any actions, then this number of applications is going to get to zero in the near future. And so is the enrollment. So the college has now set, and the district has set, an enrollment growth of a minimum of 2%. They're thinking of taking it from 2% to 4%. So if we do not do anything about adult enrollment, then in that case, we'll be heavily relying on the other two student population, particularly the dual credit students, to meet that goal. And that is something that all our faculty and staff should be thinking about in terms of future planning and implication. So here is an important message. When we took those 2% growth, we do that based on what the current adult enrollment is, then we apply a 2% growth. So when you apply that 2%, 3%, 4% growth, it really doesn't take us very far in terms of enrollment, because we have lost so much. And if we want to gain back what we have lost over the past 5 years, I would be looking at growth rate of 30%, 40% per year, which we know is completely impractical. So every planning, all the planning in terms of faculty, the classroom, the budget for communicate for advertisement, marketing, etc., they are all dependent on that 2% growth. So then we were thinking about, is that really realistic? When you have built such a momentum in the drop of the number of students, how are you going to stop it? Then you want to grow it by 2%. So therefore, we should be looking at that 2% growth as actually the distance between this point and that point. So therefore, what I'm proposing is what I call as the pain index. How much pain it will be to get back that 2% student that is not going to be the distance between the 0% line and 2% line, but actually from this momentum line and the 2% growth. So that means our difficulty level or pain level is going to increase exponentially to gain that 2% growth in adult learner population.
Takanta, there's a question in the chat. Do you want to take that now, or do you want to wait to get through the slides and then take any questions that come up as we discuss them as a whole? What would you like to do?
Yeah, if we can save that question for the sake of time, if we can save that until after the presentation or during the panel discussion, it will be helpful.
Okay, all right. I'll hang on to that one, Veronica.
Okay, so the next one is the retention. So retention is an interesting, to me, an engineering problem. And for the business measures, this is a business problem. We talk about a leaky bucket example. What leaky bucket problem is that if you have water leaking out at a rate faster than water coming in, so the bucket is never going to get full, and ultimately the bucket is going to get empty. So likewise, if our enrollment, we are going to put all our eggs in the enrollment basket and not taking care of the retention, then eventually the number of students at the college, they are going to empty out. So therefore, we have to create a fix for that. And that is what the schematic patched bucket is indicating. So how does that compare with our current data? When we look at our persistence data, this is quite alarming. What this pie chart is showing is that after 2 years, we had already lost 61% of our adult learners. And we have lost 64% at the end of 3 years. So that is staggeringly low. But the interesting thing is that we are not doing as bad as it is nationwide, which is just 67%. And most of the reasons given for this lack of persistency is family issues and work responsibilities. And other ones that most of the respondents in a survey indicated was that childcare, finances, health issues, and transportation were factoring into them dropping out of the college. So once we take all these factors into consideration, convert those to data, and put that into a model. This is a Excel macro that was provided by RNL company, but we came up with all the data. When we put that into that model, we found that we may need about 3.4 full-time equivalent of full-time faculty over the next 5 years, 1 full-time equivalent adult learner director or coordinator, enrollment coaches, certified advisors, transition coordinators, and about 5.3 adjunct faculty equivalent. And on top of that, we'll have to put a lot of money into marketing and communication, buying software, getting some consulting assistance. So we have factored all those in. Then that shows us, and by the way, this is taking 2% growth into account, not accounting for the pain index that I coined. So if we do that, in that case, we are seeing that we will see some net losses up to about 2024, 25 time frame before we see some positive cash flow. So to conclude, The main message here is that growing adult learner enrollment is a complex problem, and it will require significant integration among student success, academic success, and college services. And enrollment growth must be coupled with a retention or increase in retention if we want to avoid the leaky bucket situation. And program availability, program convenience, program reputation, response speed from everybody involved in the process. These are the factors that are primary in the minds of adult learners when they are deciding whether they will come to Palo Alto College or they will go to, let's say, Tamusa or any other college for that matter. And we should be prepared with our analysis and actions now if we want to dodge the significant pressure in the decline in the high school graduate, hence the enrollment at college. If we take action now, we will see better results around the 2026-28 timeframe. So that's all I have to present, and that concludes my presentation. John?
Thank you, Siddhikanta, very much. So again, if you think about what Siddhikanta just said, I mean, to put things in very simple terms, you see that there is the intention, the enrollment piece and the retention piece. And you can see that again, in order to address our problem, we're going to all need college services, student success, and academic success. We're going to need to pull together. At first blush, it may have been a little difficult to see what is the connection between teaching and learning, right? This is a teaching and learning symposium and what we're doing here. But I think that just a little reflection on that retention piece will make that become a little bit clearer. So we had 5 questions, and what I would like to do, because I mean, I'm certainly no expert in this area, and I think we were hoping to enlist the help of everyone here again. And so I just want to open this up to everyone, and rather than do breakout rooms, I think there might be value in this instance to see, for everyone to hear what everyone else is thinking and saying, especially when it comes to folks from other divisions. So our first question is, how well do we really know our adult students and what motivates them? So chime in, please. Anyway.
I'll jump in. This is actually a great question because I don't really know that we have an answer, unfortunately. You know, when we talk about like advising, we try to get to know the student, try to build rapport, try to, establish a relationship. So where there is that trust. And and Carmen, correct me if I'm wrong, or you can jump in, but it's really hard to say like overall what motivates our students, to continue and perform. We have an idea of some things that do, but I don't know overall, like for Palo Alto, 100% or even 95%, what is it that motivates them? And, and hearing that is not necessarily maybe positive, but it's something that we, definitely need to take a look at, because if we can't identify what motivates them, then how can we provide support? How can we, provide guidance or resources overall? Like I said, we can, pockets here and there of some of our students, but overall, I don't think we have that information.
In my instance, when I work with a lot of my programs from the Bold Advising Center, and my name is Carmen Velasquez Avila, and in the Bold Advising Center, we are responsible for a lot of the PTE programs. So we do get a lot of those adult learners who are coming back. And in my experience with working with these, their children are their motivation to get a better job and to be that role model for their children. And time and time again, when we also work with our dismissal students, and we are getting, we have a lot of women that are coming back saying, it's my turn to basically try to make my dreams come true, which is earning a degree. And so, and that seems to me, at least for us in our department, is their motivating factor. And that's something that has been a consistent theme with our students. Is it's their family. Their families are motivation. It's getting that, trying to get that that job or that promotion, which is that motivating factor. But again, it's always tying back to their family.
I want to add to that too. I'm Rose Zambrano, professor of STEM and Education 1300. And one of the assignments I give to my students is a self-reflection essay, and that is one of the questions. They're guided questions, and then they speak to these issues to reflect on different topics, but one particularly is that one, what motivates them. And again, sort of to add to Ms. Avila's comment, family, yes, and also just the adversities they've encountered. They realize that it is up to them to make the change. They've got to take that leap of faith. And I know even for myself, adversity was a great motivator for me ever since I can remember. So again, that is one of the themes that has surfaced from my students, from that experience, from the assignment they're given.
It strikes me that there's a very interesting dynamic going on, and that's it. On one hand, what you're saying, Carmen, and I believe it's right, that family is a principal motivating factor when it comes to why adult learners return to school, and at the same time, family and family commitments, obligations make things more challenging. Make things more difficult, but just interesting. Shayna, any thoughts? And just jump in, please.
I don't think that we haven't really recruited the adult learner. We haven't recruited the adult learner, and I don't know. I mean, Carmen, have we? Nydia, have we recruited the adult learner? We've put out advertisements saying, here we are, our doors are open, but we have, you come to us, we haven't gone to them. And one of the things about adult learners is many times they're not going to come to you. You really have to really reach out to them. And we just haven't done that. We haven't done that probably in the last 10 or 15 years. So we're really behind the curve on that.
Can I tie that to the question that Veronica has asked via chat? Her question is, we have heavily recruited in high school.
Yeah. We've recruited in the high school, but we haven't, and purposely, we've purposely recruited at the, or we've, I don't know if you even recruited at the high school. What we've done is we've created the circumstances such that we allow more high school students to enroll. I don't know if we necessarily have recruited them. Maybe that is recruitment, but we really haven't actively pursued or actively recruited, our students, the adult students.
And you're right. You're right. I remember back in the day, we would actually go to we went to SAWS, we went to CPS.
Right.
We used to do, again, this was like, 15 years ago, where we would go and we would actively ask, with these different organizations, ask them when they had fairs for their employees. And we would, I remember doing that a lot. Again, back when I started, 15 years ago. And so, but it seems like the shift has changed, of course, most recently with Alamo Promise. and us just, targeting those high school students. But you're right. We've done maybe one thing, which is having, I remember before COVID, we had a couple of fairs that we would have, or not fair, whatever programs, events for our adult learners. But I'm not so sure as to what we actually do as to get them, invite them, and who it goes out to. That would be more of the welcome center. And again, through COVID, I mean, it's really just kind of been difficult to do a lot.
So we have what do we know about our adult students? And we live on the south side of San Antonio. We know that there's a significant number of students who are not only adult learners, but whose English is not their first language. What we've done, if we've done any kind of recruitment, is we've done select recruitment to the exclusion of those students whose English is not their first language. And so if we're going to continue doing that, just kind of doing select recruitment, and then totally overlooking the students whose English is not their first language, they could have been educated in another country and have high credentials, but we're totally overlooking that population. So we really need to do some reflection about the type of student that we want to recruit before we actually move on with this. Do we have the infrastructure? Do we want to invest in our population of the students that we're recruiting? And I think that our adult students are quickly finding out that no, we're not investing in them. And so if we're not investing in them, that means that we're not interested in them.
And I think to jump in and add to that, Dr. Rodriguez, is the fact that we also don't make our enrollment process, easy, not necessarily easy, but more, I guess, shorter, so, so that students can easily go through the process or seamlessly go through the process and understand what all the steps are. Unfortunately, that's been our biggest struggle, in my opinion. Even with our, high school graduates, they struggle to get through the enrollment process. So you can imagine our adult learners or older, how they struggle, and our non-English speakers, right? We don't have, a Spanish or Spanish website where these steps are, at least not that I'm aware of, where we can make it accessible and easy for them to understand our process.
And this is Veronica, and I think beyond that all these are good points, Carmen and Nydia and Dan. It is something that traditionally we had focused on adult learners just by virtue of, say, the workforce programs, going to the workplaces, like Carmen mentioned, and I remember getting students from a San Antonio Independent School District recruitment fair. They were encouraging their employees to go back to college, and there was someone from the accounting department that didn't have a degree, and she went back to school and got her associates in applied science and business management. And so that's just one example of, I think, what can happen when we do some targeted recruitment, because I know from being at PAC the last 15 years, it probably the last 5 to 7 years, we've targeted high school graduates. And maybe it was, if you look at what the average student age, it used to be 27, and I think now it might be 23. I don't remember.
I was around when it was 32.
There you go. You see what I'm saying? We have done that to ourselves. I don't think that there's a national trend. I think we could have bucked that trend, because we definitely have a population of students that we serve who did not consider college as the first go-to option when they graduated high school. If they graduated high school, the first go-to option was work and help family and pay expenses. That's just the place they were in their lives. And so when they got to be 23, 24, 25, they realized, I'm in a minimum wage job, if I'm in one at all, maybe even getting lower than minimum wage, because I'm waiting tables, and I'm not going to go anywhere, and I'm working 3 jobs just to make ends meet. So maybe I should go back to college. Maybe I should go to college. And so, you know, we started to see an influx of students who were using this as a means to promote themselves in the workplace. And I just think we still have that population out there. If you look, there's statistics on who graduates from high school or who leaves high school and doesn't go anywhere. They don't go in the military. They don't go into a higher educational institution. What happens to them? Are they all in the workforce? Are they not working? Are they living with parents or grandparents in multi-generational families? You know, I think we all know that that's the case. So I don't know how much staff it's going to take to do something that we should probably be able to do now with what some efforts, just a shift. That's all. I'm off the soapbox.
We did make a conscious effort to move toward high school recruitment. Okay. And so then what we did is we beefed up, you know, the financial aid, we beefed up the tutoring, we beefed up all these kinds of things in it, and it moved the needle a little bit. Okay. And then we left out our adult population, we let them go. Because we felt that if we were able to retain just 2 to 3% of those students, of the new high school students that we enrolled, if we were able to retain those, and then you know, if we were able to recruit just a few more students, then our enrollment would continue to go up. But that didn't happen.
I'm going to jump in there just so we can, if it's okay, just to kind of move us to question 2. I think there's some overlap between the first and the second question, and the responses have been phenomenal. The second question kind of directly segues into what Dan was talking about and several of you, which is, have we fully explored how adult students differ from traditional age students? And I know when Sitkanta and John and I first began talking about this, you know, months and months ago, you know, one of the things that came up is there's such a focus right now on dual enrolled students that we've kind of seemed to have left the adult students behind, and they do have different needs. They have different situations like you guys are talking about, and they have different motivators as well. And then I know we're getting very close on time. It's like a minute left. If you need to leave, that's, you know, we certainly understand. If you want to stay till 12, we can stay until noon, but Shane, I didn't know if you might want to pick up on that second question. You know, do you have any, what would you want to add to that about?
I kind of agree with what everyone is saying in that we aren't targeting those adult learners, and we haven't even really put in an effort to attempt to understand what is going to motivate them and bring them back to campus. I don't think necessarily that we do a great job of welcoming an adult learner or someone who may not be confident in returning to a campus if they've been gone from a campus for a really long time, or like Dr. Dan was saying, if English is my second language and I've been in the workforce for the past 15, 20 years, and to come back into a setting of which that I might not have thrived in the first place, but I'm still highly educated. I know my trade, whatever that circumstance is, I don't think that we do a good job of welcoming that potential student. And I don't know if we even have the infrastructure available right now to welcome those students. And I'm not really sure how we would even build that capacity right now, because our focus is so much on dually enrolled students and now Alamo Promise. I don't know how we would build capacity to even bring in a focus for adult learners right now.
Yeah, there has to be a circumstance where the adult learners, it's about motivation, yes, but it's also one where the adult learners need to feel that at the campus we're receptive to them being here. You know, the old saying that students don't care how much we know until they know how much we care, and that's what we got to do.
I'd like to add on to the to what we've been talking about. One, I was an adult learner. I came as a disabled veteran. I had no choice. I was injured overseas in the military, and so I had to restructure my whole life. My first semester, I was going to drop. I didn't feel comfortable at all. If it wasn't for Miss Ledema and Miss Maines, I was going to drop. you know, so I know what the adult learners are going through because I deal with them every day in our department. Most of our high school students, dual credit students, most of those are older than, 30 years old, and they have I have one student, 5 kids, and his job in the field takes him to Oklahoma, so he was always traveling. So we have to be flexible with them. We try to work with our students when they're in that situation. So, I mean, I think we need to, they're kind of timid, I guess you can say it, they don't feel like they blend in right. So we have to find some way to make them feel like they're wanted, they kind of just stay away from everything except for coming to class, and that's it.
Anthony, just to add to that, I mean, I'm thinking about as long as I've been at PAC. I mean, just with the classroom makeup and dynamics has changed so much within the last 10 years. I mean, I remember teaching night classes where it was predominantly adult students. To now, you have a class that's 50% or more early college high school students, and that's fine. But that does change. That's also another factor. If you have a student who's uncomfortable or lacks the self-confidence going, even just getting them in the door, and then, if they're in the room and it's predominantly, 16 or 17-year-olds, that's something to consider,
Yeah, if it wasn't for, like I said, Ms. Ledema and Ms. Maines, and then, of course, Dr. Rodriguez, he took me under his wing to a couple things and made me feel like I was, okay, that I'm, I'll be okay. I'm welcomed here. Because like I said in the very beginning, my first semester, I was like, this is not for me. These people are way too, they're way younger than I am. I just felt out of place, at first. But, it just takes that extra step from, faculty, make them feel better. We got to let them know that, there are other things besides just going to their class,
Rena put a comment in the text talking about the inflexibility of the traditional academic calendar and how that makes it very unattractive to adult learners. Whereas other local universities, have fast tracks for students, utilizing summer and et cetera. And then I'm kind of glancing and summarizing, but, also forcing students to finish within a set time frame is not always helpful. Why can't a student take an extended amount of time to finish a class if that is what they need? Again, and that leads into the third question. John, I don't know if you want to.
Right. So what might these differences imply for program offerings and student retention? And I just want to say in a second, I appreciate, Shana, your comment. I appreciate everybody's. And Anthony, I remember you as a student, and I know that it was tough, but you hung in there and you did it. But Shana, I appreciate your realism because I mean, these questions are very difficult to answer. I don't know how we're going to do it either, but I also know that we really have no choice if we're going to aspire to fulfill our mission, because we're supposed to be, I mean, the community colleges in general are supposed to provide access to all members of the community, and we're not doing that. We're not doing that right now. But anyway, Julie, can we go on, or do we need to stop?
Well, the time for the 50-minute session is over, but you're welcome. You're all here together if you want to continue. The only thing that I would like to add is that I put a link to a survey in the chat. If you could all give some feedback on the session, and thank you.
Well,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Julie. And guys, I mean, just out of respect for everyone's time, because you may have other commitments, I guess I move that maybe we should end this again, just because folks have things that they need to do. But I want to thank again my colleagues, Siddhikanta, Dr. Mahatni, and Jenny, for all of their work and cooperation and letting me learn from them. I appreciate all of you attending, and I'm just sorry that we didn't have more time, but hopefully this will be just the beginning of a conversation at the college.